Hey everybody, it's Janice with Creating Through Chaos. I'm going to start this project off with these arrows that I got at Dollar Tree. So the first two big ones I am going to pull the hangers off of, and the little one I had filled in the holes after I took the hanger off. On one of the large arrows, I took and taped off the top half, and I'm going to paint that with a deep midnight blue. Once that's painted, I'm going to take the second large arrow, and I'm going to paint that whole thing with the deep midnight blue as well. Once those are all painted, I'm going to set them aside to dry. And then I'm going to take that smaller arrow and I am going to paint that with a deep burgundy color. Once I have that all painted, I am going to set that aside to dry as well. And I'm going to take that arrow that I did the top half blue and I'm going to tape that off. And I'm going to paint the bottom half with the color almandine. I'm just going to make sure that I tape off that blue so I don't get any of the almandine on that. Once I have that all painted and it's all dry, I am going to tape off some lines onto that arrow. And I left the piece of tape at the top, or put another piece of tape at the top, I should say. And I'm going to paint those stripes with the deep burgundy color. And for all of these coats of paint, I did 2 coats. So I'm going to let them fully dry, and then I did another coat of each. So I'm just going to get these stripes, and don't forget the edges on this one. And just paint it that deep burgundy color and then let that dry. Once everything was dry, I can start peeling off the tape. So I'm just going to peel off the tape on this one. Reveal those pretty crisp lines. And if there's any paint that got underneath, you can always touch up with the white or the burgundy, whatever needed to be done, or at the top with the blue. Once I have them all painted their base colors, I am going to take this little stencil, and I cut this stencil out of another stencil that I got at Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to tape that onto this arrow. And I'm just going to pounce some paint of the almandine color and do these stars all over this arrow. So as you can see, I've got the stencil up right here. And then for the next one, I am going to peel it off, and I'm going to flip that stencil upside down, and I'm going to do this and rotate it through the whole length of this arrow. And this is why I cut the stencil out. It just makes it easier, and I just keep the small stencil taped to the wall in my craft room so that I can have it anytime I need it. And it's a very small piece of stencil to work with for other projects. So as you can see, I've done that upside down, and I'm just going to keep rotating this throughout the whole length of this arrow. Once I have that all done with the stars, I'm going to do the same thing to the top of the arrow that we painted blue. So I taped off where the big star was on this stencil, and I'm only going to use the little stars. So I'm making sure that I don't get any paint on that big star, so I've taped it off completely. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this, just kind of flipping the stencil whichever way I need it. So just kind of moving it around, figuring out where I want it, and then placing it down and putting those stars on there. On this one, I'm going to use this other stencil from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to tape off around this one star that I want so that I don't get any paint from the other stars that are on the stencil. I just want this one, so once I have that all taped off, I'm just going to use my sponge bouncer and the more almandine paint and stencil this star on. And I'm not going to do this as frequently as I did the other stars. I'm just going to kind of separate this throughout the whole arrow. Once I have that all done, I'm going to set those aside, and I'm going to sand off all of the edges on all of these arrows. So just using my sanding block, going around on each one and sanding off some of the paint on the edges to give it a rustic look. I'm just kind of bring back out that unfinished wood on all of them. Once I have them all sanded, I'm going to take my antique wax and I'm going to wax every single one of them. So I'm going to go on the edges and right down the center of them. So I'm just going to do the whole top and the edges on every single one of them. So I started with the small one, and then I'm going to do the starred one, making sure I go over the whole thing. And then I'm going to do the one with the stripes. Once I have them all stained with the antique wax, I'm going to take that small arrow and I'm going to take some twine and wrap it around the center of it. I'm just going to wrap it a few times. And then I'm going to tie it off in the middle. And I did a double knot. And then I'm just going to set that aside for a second while I do the next step. The next step is I'm going to take this tag that I coffee stained and my stamps, and I am going to stamp the word boom onto this tag. So I did BOOM and then an exclamation point. Once I have that all done, I'm going to tie that on to that twine that I just tied onto that small arrow. I'm just going to tie it into a bow, and then I am going to add a rusty bell and safety pin to the center of that bow. So I'm just going to kind of get the bow how I want it, trim off that excess, and then add that pin. So I'm just going to slide that through, put that pin on, and then close it up. Once I have that all finished, I'm going to set my arrows a little bit slanted from each other and then put that smaller arrow in the center and then glue that down. So I'm just going to put some glue on that little one and on the two big ones, and then kind of hold that in place for a minute until it sets. Once I have that on, I'm going to take these two popsicle sticks. They're actually they're not the jumbo sticks, but they're a little bit bigger than a popsicle stick. And I'm going to paint those with the blue that I used on the arrows. And I'm just doing this for some stability on the back. So once I have those both painted, I'm going to glue those right to the back so that it will give those bigger arrows some stability. I'm going to place those down and just glue them into place and hold them there until they are set up. And this just helps to hold it all together. Once I had that all done, I'm going to take some rusty wire, and I just made some small pieces of rusty wire. I took them and wrapped them around a pencil, and then I'm going to use these as the end tails, and I'm going to put 2 on each one. So I'm just going to put them together, and then I'm going to staple them into place. And then I took a pair of pliers and kind of folded over the wire over the top of the staple, just to kind of hold those into place. And then just press those wires down and then just kind of let them hang. And I did that on all 3 of them. And look how cute that looks. I absolutely love it. Next, I'm going to take my drill and I'm going to drill a couple of holes in the top of each one of the big arrows. And then I'm going to take some more of my rusty wire, and I am going to cut a large piece of it, and I'm going to make a hanger out of it. So I'm just going to take that rusty wire, cut myself a big piece of it, and then I am going to slide that through the back side of the arrow. So I'm just going to push that through the hole that I just made. And then I'm going to push it through a little bit, and then I'm going to spin that part down and make like a curlicue with my pliers, and then push it into place. And then kind of pull my wire up for a hanger. And then I'm going to take a paintbrush and just wrap my wire around it to kind of give the wire some curl. I'm going to do that all the way to the other side. And then once I have it all curled how I want it, I'm going to take that other side and push that through as well. And then I'm going to use my pliers again to cut off some of that excess, and then again make it so it curls down to hold. So I'm just going to cut off some of the excess of that because I got it a little too big, and then spin that end back down and then push it into place. And that is it. This project is finished. I hope you enjoyed this project. I absolutely fell in love with it when I saw it on Pinterest. I don't know who the original creator was, so I can't give them credit, but thank you to them for the idea. I absolutely love the rustic look of this. I hope it inspires you to make one. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, don't forget to spread the chaos.